Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be doing a piece called Be Vulnerable and we're going to be drawing faces on the burlap in the Dina Wakley journal. So we're starting off in my Dina Wakley journal on a page that I've already glued some tissue paper down onto. If you followed my channel for a while, this is the way I tend to treat burlap. I find it really difficult just to paint straight onto it because so much paint soaks in that goes through to the other page. So I use gel medium quite generously, use the inside bits of tissues or a napkin and glue that onto my page and then seal the top. And what happens when I've done that is I get a sealed page, so paints dry really quickly on it, but also I don't lose any of the texture. You can still see the texture of the burlap and you'll certainly see that when we do the picture over the top. To begin with this page, I was actually trying to challenge myself because when I do backgrounds I tend to always go for cool colours. So I had a whole heap of these warm colours sitting out and I was like, no, I'm going to use them. So I got them all out. So these are the paper artsy paints and I've just finger painted them onto the background, and now I'm just using a whole heap of stencils and stenciling out some of the colours over the top just to get some ideas of pattern and colour. And what I'm doing is sort of overlapping the colours somewhat, so you know where there's a red I'm extending the red out to the edge and so on, so you can kind of get these different happenings across the page. I'm also stenciling with all the same colours, so you know I'm using the oranges and the reds and so on I've used in the background. You can see with these paints, particularly with warm colours, they are fairly translucent colours anyway, but you can see that particularly when I'm using up the paint there onto those tags. So you do need to put a little bit more paint on when you're stenciling just to get them to the colour that you want. Once I'd done that, I decided I wanted to put a little bit of white back on the page. I've found a lot at the moment that I'm tending just to colour in the background because that's just what I do. But then I go back and stencil something in white over the top to get that little bit of white space back in, and that's working for me. I know some people are fantastic at leaving white space. You don't need it on all your pages really, but it does help to create a balanced page, and certainly it makes things a little bit more interesting. So once I have used up my the rest of the white paint, you can see me decorating some tags there for something else, I just went back in and added some extra pattern onto the page. When I started this, I really didn't have an idea of what I was doing with it. I did the background because I was using the warm colours and I thought, right, I'll have a go, I'll have a look at this. Then I got that purple one out. It didn't quite work on the page because the purple there has kind of got some coolish tones to it. Then I had these circles, so I could glue those down. I thought, not really digging it, but I actually really liked the pop of blue on that page. So that got me on to the blue train of thought that I could maybe use some blues on this page. Then I thought, oh, circles are pretty cool, I could go and use this page. So if you haven't seen this book before, this is a collage collective from Dina Wakley. It's a whole heap of her artwork. It's double-sided, you get 2 of each print in each one. It's really handy for doing quick collages if you want something, but it didn't work in this instant. I just didn't know what to do. You can see me there tapping my fingers going, oh, I don't know what to do. So I then found these rice papers and thought, oh, maybe I could use those, but that just didn't appeal to me either. I was having a really, really indecisive day. So while I was waiting, I thought, well, I really like that blue, so I'm going to add some blue to this, which kind of totally defeats the purpose of me starting off with the warm colours in the first place, but you know, that's me. So I went in with this stencil from Stencil Girl Products and just stenciled all over the page. Now I was going to actually be pretty particular about what words I was going to put on, and then I just got carried away because I put too much paint out and thought, oh, I'll just stencil over the whole thing. So I did, and I loved it. I really loved that pop of blue over all those colours, and particularly with the white there too, sort of blending the white back into the background somewhat. So once I did that, and I've used up all my extra paint, I thought, well, what can I do now? And I was looking at the page on the right hand side and I was still focused on having a face on here. And I thought, well, why don't I just draw one? So the face I did on the right hand side was one I did before I went to a face drawing lesson. I went to a class with Tracy Scott and learned how to draw fantastic fantasy faces. So I thought, well, why not have kind of a before and after on this page? So that's what I decided to do. So I've just sketched out a rough sort of face shape with water-soluble pencil, so my Stabilo All pencil. And then I am painting it in with the Paper Artsy paints. So the reason I'm using the Paper Artsy paints is because they are super, super matte. I used them in the background just because I had them sitting out, but for the face paint, I've now anytime I'm painting a face, I tend to use the Paper Artsy paints because they're super matte, which means that the colour pencil will actually adhere to it, which is really, really important when you're doing your shading and so on. The other reason I did this was I thought it would be fun to try and draw a face on the burlap to actually see if it would work. I knew I would have a lot of texture to work with, but I wondered how difficult it would actually be. So I'm going in and just mapping out my face and drawing out all my features that I want to put in, drawing out really quick hair, where my eyebrows are going to be and so on. So I've just divided my face in half and then in half again, then put in the quarter line and an eighth line, and the nose sits on the quarter line and your mouth actually sits on the eighth line. Most people tend to put the mouth at a quarter line and it just doesn't quite look right. So I'm using my Prismacolor pencils, and when I shade faces, I tend to always use purples. You can use any colours to shade a face. You just need sort of a dark tone, a mid-tone and a light tone. So I'm using a dark purple, a lighter purple, and then I'll start using some pinky sort of colours for my shadow tones, my peachy colours, so to blend it all in together. So you can see that while it's not going on particularly smooth, I'm getting some really cool textures within my face. The other reason I really like using the Stabilo All pencil, and you can kind of see it there on the nose line, is because it is water soluble and kind of waxy. It does move, which gives you your own type of shading anyway. It's one of the reasons why I really love using it on any page, because it moves so easily and you can kind of shade with it. So once I've finished, I'm just going back in again with the paint and putting in the whites of the eye. Usually when I'm doing the whites of the eye, I use a Posca paint pen, but again, because I've found since starting to use colour pencils a little bit more, the Posca paint pen doesn't really like colour pencils. It can kind of chip off sometimes, so I've been using the paints. You can see as soon as you put some darkness around the eyes and some highlights in, the face starts to come alive again. And hopefully you can see a big difference between this page and the page on the other side. So while the page on the other side is intentionally a little bit more whimsical because the eyes are very wide set and so on, I can honestly say there's been a big improvement in my face drawing. There's still a huge, huge amount to go, but I would highly recommend, if you've ever got a chance to actually go and learn how to draw faces, to have a go. It seems intimidating, but it's really worthwhile. And even if you pick up just one or two things, for me it was picking up how to do eyes, and a really quick way to draw a nose and mouth really helped me. Tracy is also fantastic with different hairstyles. They all tend to be sort of like beehive things, but that's great because I didn't really know how to draw hair before. I tended just to do, again, what I did on the right hand side with that sort of flowy hair that just kind of looks like it's painted there. So it's nice to know how to do a different style. So once I'd finished, I was really, really happy with how it turned out. But it wasn't quite finished because she was kind of floating in midair. So I decided to go back in with this word vulnerable because I thought she looked quite vulnerable on the page, and it had the word be, so I have be vulnerable. Even though it's repeated below, because I've sort of stenciled it up on her chest area where it's been painted, it kind of pops out a little bit more. And just to make it pop out a little bit more, I've decided to outline the word, the stenciling, with my paint pen, just so it really sort of stands out. So you just need to be careful with paint pens on the burlap because of the texture. Sometimes it can catch and splatter a little bit. So just be warned that you have to have a fairly juicy pen, and don't be upset if it does catch because it's likely to. I've also just got in with a little bit of white pen just to add a little bit of highlighting. So here's the final page and picture. It's worthwhile having a go at drawing over the burlap just to get that different texture. I would highly encourage you to do it, just to have a go. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.